Get ready to make some sweet cards with the Cake Fancy stamp set. In this tutorial, I'll guide you through making a layered cake just with simple stamping. Then we're going to use just the candles for a really fun card. And then we are going to make a piece of cake with some fruit on top. And stay to the end because I have a very, very pretty wedding card in peachy tones, perfect for a late summer wedding or early fall wedding. So let's get started. Hi everyone, I'm Nancy Novak and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're diving into the Cake Fancy stamp set, a must-have for anyone who loves adding a touch of sweetness to their projects. This set is available at my online store, so be sure to check it out. There's a link in the description below. I can't wait to show you how easy it is to create stunning cards with this stamp set. Before we get into today's card, let me show you some of the stamping that I did. And this is all simple stamping. So I just tried all different kinds of colors and different setups. Like here I did the full 3 layers, and here I just did a piece of cake. Here we put some fruit on the top. This one is a little cheesecake. And of course we have this one here, which I think is perfect for a guy, because of course guys like eating cake too. So you can make great masculine cards with this stamp set too. But for our first one, we're going to do a layered cake in the colors of navy and Highland heather. So I have my navy card base, and I have a Highland heather layer. And then for the front, I cut out a perennial postage piece. That's going to layer on the front like that. And then inside, I have 2 white pieces. And remember, I always have free project sheets with my tutorials. All you need to do is sign up for my weekly newsletter, and I'll email it right to you. You don't have to go looking for it. It'll come right to your email box. So we're going to start with the classic stamping layered cake. So I'm going to stamp on this piece right here. And the colors I'm using Night of Navy, I'm using Misty Moonlight, I'm using Gorgeous Grape, I'm using Highland Heather, and then I'm using Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to bring in the stamp that's the cake plate, and we're going to stamp that right at the bottom here. And I'm going to stamp it in Misty Moonlight. Now my Night of Navy stamp pad isn't quite as juicy as it should be to make this, so that's why I'm making this part in Misty Moonlight. You can play with the colors. Either one works perfectly. So let's just stamp this right at the bottom. Okay, that's exactly what I want it to look like. So now I'm going to bring in the layered piece of cake. It's going to create the layers of our cake. And I'm going to stamp that first one in Night of Navy. And this does have a right or a wrong way, but it doesn't, it's either way that you like it. So I'm going to stamp the first layer in Night of Navy. And that's how it looks, and it's exactly what I wanted. And it has a little bit of a darker tint to it. It's a distinctive stamp set, so it's supposed to have the lighter and darker texture to it. So I'm going to clean this off, and the next color I'm using is Gorgeous Grape. So I'm going to stamp another layer. I'm going to do it in the same direction. I'm going to leave just a little bit of white space showing in between. Just like that. So again, I'm going to clean my stamp off, and the next layer is going to be in Highland Heather. Again, I'm going to leave a little bit of white space in between the layers. So far, so good. So I'm going to bring back in the Misty Moonlight, and the stamp set comes with this cute little bow, and I'm going to stamp it right in between the layers there. Okay, the next stamp is this little stamp here. I'm going to use Night of Navy, and it's going to create our little cake border, our little icing border. And I'm going to put that right along the top of our cake. So we just have a little bit of cake left to decorate. So instead of doing the full stamp, I'm just going to ink up like 2 pieces of that stamp and put it right at the edge here. And now our cake is decorated. So now we're going to put on some candles. So we have the little candle stamp, and I'm going to do the first one. I'm going to do that one in Night of Navy, and I'm going to stamp it right in the middle of our cake. Then I'm going to clean the stamp off, and then I'm going to do one in Gorgeous Grape and the other one in Highland Heather. that pretty? Okay, now I'm going to bring in the little flame for our candles, and we'll stamp that in Daffodil Delight. Okay, now we're going to stamp our sentiment right on our cake, and I'm going to stamp that in Misty Moonlight. And then let's bring our inside stamping piece in. So again, on the inside I have 2 white pieces, and I'm going to stamp on the smaller white piece. And I'll stamp in Misty Moonlight. I'm going to stamp Birthday Wishes. So let's glue all this together so you can see how pretty the colors are. It really looks pretty with the Highland Heather and the Night of Navy. So let's take a look. Isn't that pretty? This stamp set's perfect for simple stamping. And again, you can find it at my online store, and I have a link down below. Let's get on to card 2. It's really going to be fun. Okay, so we're sticking with our color theme of Night of Navy and Highland Heather. So for the front, I have a layer of Highland Heather. I have a piece that I cut out of the postage dies. Then I have another layer, smaller layer of Highland Heather, and another piece that I cut out with the dies. And then I have 2 little pieces of designer series paper, just little scraps. And then the inside, we're going to do our 2 white pieces. First, we're going to stamp the little ribbon or the little bow, and I'm going to stamp that in Misty Moonlight. I stamped it right at the bottom there. And now we're going to add some candles. So I'm going to bring in Night of Navy and Highland Heather and Gorgeous Grape. And I'm going to bring in my little chamois because I'm going to be cleaning off my stamp set each time I stamp a candle. So I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm going to stamp in a Night of Navy, just like that. Then I'm going to do Highland Heather on each side of that candle. And you can stamp right over the bow. And then I'm going to finish with Gorgeous Grape. Okay, we'll bring in the Daffodil Delight to light up these candles. Okay, and then for this, I have a scrap of Night of Navy, and we're going to do a little heat embossing for our sentiment. Okay, so we're going to bring in the little stamps that say Enjoy Your Special Day, and we're going to stamp those in Versamark. Then we're going to heat them up with the white embossing powder and cut them out for the front of our card. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. Let's put the front of our card together. I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the white piece to the Highland Heather, and then I'm going to glue that to the front of the card. Then I'm going to glue our candles to the smaller layered piece of Highland Heather. I'm going to pop that up on dimensionals right down here at the bottom. Okay, and this is going to be a horizontal card. So I turned it, and we're going to put our popped up piece right down here. And put it about right there. Then I have our 2 little designer series paper strips, And again, I will give you all the sizes on the project sheet. And we're going to slide it right under there, and we're going to glue it on the side of our candles. Okay, just like that. So if you notice when I put my dimensionals on, I didn't put dimensionals right at the edges of the candle, the back of the candles, because I want to be able to slide these two little pieces under. So I just put them in a little bit closer to the center of this candle piece. So now we're going to go ahead and cut these out, and we're going to lay those right at the top of our card. So since I have my handy little cutter here, I'm going to use that to start us off. And I'm just bringing my paper snips and just trim this down a little bit. Now, if you want, you could just do something like that, but I'm going to go ahead and cut these into littler pieces, smaller pieces. And I'm going to pop it up. So just going to put a dimensional on the back and kind of lay these across the top. And there you go. So inside, I'm going to stamp birthday wishes again and glue those two white pieces to the inside of the card. And that's card number 2. So this design's playful and perfect for birthdays or any celebration that calls for a little extra light, right? Okay, card number 3. So for our third card, we're going to stamp a delicious piece of cake, and we're going to top it with some fruit. So this has a fresh, summery type of vibe that I absolutely love. And again, if you're inspired by this stamp set, you can find the link for the Cake Fancy stamp set down in the description below this video. So again, we have our Night of Navy card base, Highland Heather layer, a white layer, and then for the inside, I have 2 white pieces. Then I cut a circle out of the deckled circles, and then I have some designer series paper. So this is the Highland Heather 6x6 in color designer series paper. So I just cut out a few different sizes. And again, the sizes for the designer series paper will be on the project sheet, so you don't have to worry about that. I'll also let you know the size of this circle. And we're going to start off by doing some simple stamping right on that circle. So I'm going to bring in the cake dish base, and we're going to stamp that in Misty Moonlight. So I just stamped it near the bottom there. Now I'm going to bring in Highland Heather and our cake layer, and we're going to stamp that right on top of that cake dish. And if you wanted to have that darker, it's really simple to just go over it one more time. It doesn't have to be perfectly lined up, but it's very easy to do. And it's just a little bit darker. Now I'm going to use this stamp right there, and this is going to create a piece of cake. And again, I'm going to do that in Gorgeous Grape, so it's just a little bit darker. Just like that. And then I'm going to bring in the little icing stamp, and I'm going to stamp it right on the edge over here. And now we're going to bring in the stamp that looks like a bunch of berries. And I'm going to stamp those in Misty Moonlight. So I'm going to overlap the top of the cake with the berries. I'm just going to bring it down about halfway. And there are our blueberries on top of our piece of cake. So now let's just stamp our sentiment right in the middle of that cake, and we'll stamp enjoy, and I'm going to stamp that in Misty Moonlight. I'll kind of angle it. Isn't that cool? I love it. So fun. Simple stamping. I love it. Okay, I'll put these ink pads away and I'll show you how we're going to put our card together. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and glue the white piece to the Highland Heather and then put that on the front of the card. And this is going to be another horizontal card. Okay, so we have our pieces of designer series paper, and this one is going to go right in the center like that. And then this one is going to go right across the center just like that. And then we have this little strip, and it's going to go right across the center just like that. And we'll take our cake and we'll pop it up with some dimensionals. Right in the center. There you go. Isn't that pretty? So let's talk about our 3 cards and then stay to the end because I'm going to show you the wedding cards. Really pretty. Okay, so I consider this stamp set just simple stamping, and I think we created some really beautiful cards just for plain old stamping. So basically all I did was I added, since it's simple stamping and that's all we're doing, I added a little bit of interest by using that perennial postage die on both of these. And then we did a little bit of embossing here and we popped it up with dimensionals on our candle. We added a little bit of designer series paper. And again, we used that little bit of texture from the postage die. And then here we added, the fruit is really, really cute on top of here, but that designer series paper just really sets the card off, don't you think? So let me know if you have a favorite. I'm really curious to know. Let me know if you like tonight's cards. Go ahead and leave some comments. Now let me show you the wedding card that I created. So here it is, and again, it's in the peachy tones, and I used, again, the perennial postage die. And if you look closely, I have gold embossing on here, and we added some of the flowers, and those flowers are in the Cake Fancy stamp set, so you can stamp those on the inside of your card, you can stamp them on the front of your card, and again, it adds some pretty little detail. And then I added some gold pearls that I had. So the gold embossing really sets this card off. I think it's very, very pretty. So let me know if you like this card too. Again, I will have the colors that I used to create this card. So if you're wondering how the colors that I used to stamp those layers, I'll put that in my project sheet too. So I hope you enjoyed these sweet and simple projects with the Cake Fancy stamp set. If you did, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment below telling me which card was your favorite, and subscribe so you don't miss any future tutorials. And if you want to add the Cake Fancy stamp set to your collection, the link is in the description right below this video. Don't forget to visit my blog because I have great big pictures of tonight's cards and you can see them in much more detail. And that's stampinshout.blogspot.com. And as always, don't be shy, stamp and shout.